Bastich B for 64K, and welcome to episode 7 of Shoot 'em Up Decades. And welcome back. So if you've never watched the show before, I take a look at 3 different shoot 'em ups from 3 different decades. I review them and tell you why I like them. And today I've actually got a guest reviewer, but I'll let him introduce himself.
Hey everybody, Jim here from a little channel here on YouTube called Mad Panic Gaming. If you've never heard of us, we are based in Tokyo and we make a lot of videos about Japanese gaming topics, including game reviews, arcades, barcades, game hunting, all that cool stuff. And I am privileged enough to be joining Bastich B 64K today to tell you about one of my absolute favorite shoot 'em ups from the 1990s, and that is the one, the only, Strikers 1945.
And Jim will be adding our 90s review for the day. But let's not waste any more time and jump way back to the 1980s for our first review. Phobia was released in 1989 by Imageworks on the Commodore 64 and was a horizontal shoot 'em up from designer David Bishop and coder and musician Anthony Crowther. This is the same team that gave us the underrated 1988 C64 run and gun game Fernandez Must Die. The game kicks off with an amazing title tune that sets the tone for the bizarreness that follows, as the evil Phobos has captured the Galactic Emperor and is holding him on a faraway planet. There is a network of 15 planets in total on your map. You can choose your path to the final one, the Sun, where he is there to be rescued. Unlike most shooters, you have a secondary mission as well, where you need to collect 9 pieces of a heat shield needed to get to the last planet, which is the Sun itself. These can be found randomly in 9 of the 15 planets. Plus, you have to take out the planet completely, from orbit to the ground, and finally make your escape and take out the boss. It's a lot different than most generic shooters. Graphically, Phobia looks like no other C64 game, using a really impressive color palette and mixing regular and high-res graphics together for a visual feast, all helped by the fact that each planet represents a human phobia to try to dissuade anyone from getting all the way to the Emperor. The themes play into the look and style of the enemies and give the game a massive amount of diversity. A fear of spiders, water, death, and so much more give each planet its own theme and boss. The shoot 'em up action is pretty standard for the most part. Pick up power-ups to speed up your ship or your rate of fire. You can also split your ship into 2 for double the firepower, and the game also sports an excellent 2-player simultaneous mode as well. Taking out the planets in systematic style is very addictive. Seeing the beautiful designs of each theme as you slowly make your way towards the Sun is an awesome experience. From Crowther's awesome opening tune, which you would think has actually been playing on Amiga, to the serious programming chops needed to give this game its multi-layered parallax action. It received praise across the board, from computer and video games as 88% overall to Zap64's 92% final score. It's something completely unique and an often overlooked 8-bit shooter that deserves its place in the Sun.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
And with that 1980s pick done, we're going to jump to Jim's choice for the 1990s.
Strikers 1945 was originally released in arcades in 1995 and received a lot of ports, including the Sega Saturn, the PS1, and more recently was ported to modern consoles such as the Nintendo Switch as part of the Psycho Shooting Collection. If you're not familiar with the series, you might assume it has some connection to Capcom's 1940 series, but in fact, there is no connection at all aside from being set during or around World War II. You see in Strikers Strikers 1945, the war has just ended and the world is picking up the pieces, when a mysterious multinational organization rises up and attempts to conquer the world with its radically advanced military weaponry. So a coalition of the world's best fighter pilots joins forces to fend off this new global foe, hence why the playable ships include aircraft from various countries, including the American P-38 Lightning and the Japanese Zero Fighter, amongst others. Strikers 1945 is a fairly straightforward shoot-'em-up. Each of the game's 6 playable ships has a different primary attack, charge attack, and super bomb, and they all have their pros and cons, but are all fun to play with. The first 4 stages of the game are always in random order, with the second half of the game always being the same progression of stages. As you might expect, picking up power-ups will increase your firepower both for your primary attack and your charge attack, and something especially nifty here is that you can perform your charge attack as many times as you want, which was changed in the sequel to include a power meter. Also, something merciful about this game is that you only lose a ship when you are hit by a bullet. If you collide with an enemy, it will not kill you, but instead will bring you down a power level, which definitely hinders you, but is a lot better than dying. You can always pick up more power-ups after all, but getting an additional ship only happens when you score enough points, which can be a pretty tall order. This game is challenging, but also fair. It's incredibly fun, and includes some absolutely epic boss battles and set pieces, eventually culminating with your fighter plane being strapped to a rocket and launched to the moon, which is extremely cool. Capcom never let you take your P-38 Lightning into outer space, but Psycho, they were just on a whole other level, it seems. Indeed, this game features some outstanding gameplay, cool visuals, and some decent sound design as well. It's the total package as far as shooters go, if you ask me, so if you're a fan of the genre, especially if you like a good 90s shoot-'em-up, Strikers 1945 is a must-play because it's awesome.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
How could you let that happen?
That wasn't too bad, kid.
Pretend it's a game.
And now we'll head on over to the 2000s for the final game review. Astebreed was released in 2015 by Edelweiss, the same team that made Ether Vapor Remaster on the PC. This version of Astebreed we're looking at is the PS4 version, published physically by Limited Run Games number 51 if you're collecting them all. The game is a grand style Japanese mech shoot 'em up that flips between all angles to give you third person, horizontal and vertical shooting action all in one. The plot is massively convoluted, but I'll simplify it into the fact that you control Roy, a dude that gets to pilot humanity's most powerful mech against an alien race who outnumbers us astronomically. There are also a number of other characters, including 2 girls, Fiona and Estina, who provide mission details and fill in the backstory. The game takes place over 6 massive stages, with battles in space, inside alien hives, and destroying huge alien facilities and taking out the gigantic boss characters. During these levels, the perspective flips multiple times, giving you third-person action and cutscenes, as well as traditional horizontal and vertical action. You have 3 major attack styles, from regular laser fire to much more powerful melee sword strikes to lock-on homing missiles. In addition to that, you have some powerful charge attacks, which fill up, letting you unleash a barrage of destruction all at once, as well as fast-paced sword strikes for major damage. Unlike most games of this style, your regular laser fire is your weakest attack, so it makes you rely on a combination of all your attacks to survive each level. The story is also pretty important, with radio chatter pretty much ongoing and the story constantly progressing, giving the game a lot more substance than you usually get from a shooter. The controls on the PS4 are also pretty unique and work really well, as you only use the shoulder buttons for all your attacks, and the R3 is reserved for lock-on missiles. I find that when a basic shooter uses every single face button and shoulder buttons, things tend to get overly complicated for generally simple gameplay. Astebreed keeps it simple and is also a good entry-level shooter that is is generally pretty forgiving, making progression possible even if this isn't your style of game. This PS4 version is an enhanced edition over the PC release with improved graphics, an adjustable control scheme, and other minor adjustments. So check it out whether on the original PC, Switch, or this excellent PS4 version. It's a fun, chaotic shooter that's an excellent modern rollercoaster ride from start to finish.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
And thanks for joining me, Bastich B, and Jim for today's episode. I hope you had a good time. If you can, please like and subscribe. They'll be greatly appreciated, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.